My name's Luke. I'm 23. And I should have walked out the front door the moment she smiled like that. It was supposed to be quick. My aunt had texted earlier something about a leak under the kitchen sink and how her husband was out of town again. I'd been meaning to visit anyway, so I drove over just after sunset, told myself it was just to help, just to check the pipes. The front door was already cracked open when I got there. "Come in," she called from somewhere deeper inside. "Kitchen's a mess." Her voice always had that kind of warmth, teasing, familiar, but not quite safe. I stepped into the hallway, shaking a little rain off my jacket. The house was dim, quiet except for the soft hum of music playing from a speaker on the counter. Some old blues track I didn't recognize. The air smelled like wine and lavender soap. She stood barefoot by the sink in a long gray cardigan, holding a half-filled glass. Her hair was loose, tucked behind one ear. She looked exactly the same as when I was a teenager, only now I noticed things I hadn't before. "Still know how to use a wrench?" she asked, smiling. I nodded and crouched down to open the cabinet under the sink. "You're lucky I'm cheap labor." "Oh, trust me, I know." She leaned against the counter, watching me. "But I tip well." The leak was nothing, loose joint, a bit of rust. Easy fix. But she stayed close the whole time, sipping quietly, asking questions about my job, my roommates, if I was seeing anyone. "I'm not," I said, tightening the last bolt. She tilted her head. "No girlfriend?" "Nope." She raised an eyebrow. "Interesting." When I stood up, we were closer than I expected. I bumped into her arm lightly. She didn't move. I looked at her. She looked back. And then her phone buzzed on the counter. She didn't even glance at it. "Your husband?" I asked before I could stop myself. She finally reached for the phone, tapped it silent. His name mark was still glowing on the screen. "He checks in when he's bored. Likes knowing I'm where I'm supposed to be." I nodded slowly. She took a long sip from her glass, then set it down and turned away. "Thanks for the help, Luke," she said, walking toward the hallway. "You always show up when I need someone." There was something in her voice too light, too rehearsed. I followed her to the front door. She opened it, letting the cool night air rush in. And then just as I stepped out, she touched my arm. "Wait, one more thing." I turned. "The guest room lights out. Think you could change the bulb?" I hesitated. "Won't take a minute," she added. So I followed her down the hall into the guest room I used to stay in as a kid. Only now, the sheets were freshly made, and her perfume lingered in the air. I climbed up on the chair and unscrewed the dead bulb. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching me. When I reached for the new bulb, she handed it to me herself, our fingers brushing for just a second too long. As I twisted it in, the light flickered on, warm, dim, casting long shadows along the walls. "That's better," she said quietly. I stepped down, ready to leave, but the hallway behind her had gone darker somehow. She didn't move. Her voice dropped to a murmur. "He doesn't need to know you were here tonight." I didn't answer, and I didn't leave. I didn't mean to stay. After I changed the bulb, she didn't ask me to leave. And I didn't remind her. We just stood there like neither of us knew what the next move should be, or maybe we both did, and pretended we didn't. "I'll pour another glass," she said softly. "You want one?" I hesitated, then nodded. The house felt quieter than before, like even the walls were listening now. In the kitchen, the wine bottle was already uncorked. She poured slowly, slid a glass across the counter toward me. I took it without speaking. We drank without toasts. The rain had started again, a steady rhythm against the windows. The overhead lights were off now, only the under-cabinet glow lit the room, golden and soft. "I used to hate the quiet," she said suddenly. Now I miss it when it's gone. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything. She walked to the kitchen table and sat, pulling one leg up into the chair. Her robe shifted slightly, revealing more of her thigh than I was ready for. "You remember when you stayed over that summer?" she asked. "You were what, 17? "Yeah," I said. "I remember. You were different back then. So were you." That made her smile not wide, but real. Then she reached for her hand and slowly slid off her wedding ring. I watched her place it on the table. Deliberate, gentle. "Sometimes I forget I'm still wearing it," she said. "Habit, I guess." The metal caught the soft kitchen light, glowing faintly. The ring just sat there, small, gold, intimate, and yet it felt loud. Like a statement, like a door closing behind us. I stared at it too long. She noticed. "You know," she said, voice low, "Mark never asks if I'm happy. He just assumes I am." The front porch creaked. We both froze. Then footsteps. I moved slightly toward the hallway. Her eyes locked onto mine. But then came a voice, faint, female, from outside. A neighbor, laughing, walking past. We both exhaled. She stood up. "Let me show you something." I followed her down the hallway past the guest room to the small den near the back of the house. It used to be an office, but she turned it into a kind of reading room, warm rugs, bookshelves, a flickering candle already lit. She must have prepared it earlier. "Mark never comes in here," she said. "Too many books. Not enough screens." I sat on the love seat near the wall. She sat across from me, knees tucked beneath her. The candlelight flickered between us. "You're quiet," she said. "I don't know what I'm doing here." "Yes, you do." Silence stretched. Her gaze dropped to my hands. I realized they were clenched on my knees. She leaned forward. "You're still nervous around me?" "You took off your ring," I said. "I did." Another silence. Heavier this time. I looked at the floor, then back at her. "I should go," I said, standing. But she stood too quickly, like she'd been waiting for that moment. As I turned, she stepped closer. Her fingers brushed my wrist. Just a touch. Nothing more. But it felt like electricity. "Luke," she said, almost a whisper. Our faces were inches apart. Her breath smelled like wine and peppermint. The air tightened. Her hand hovered at my chest. I could feel the heat of it through my shirt. We didn't move. And then, her phone rang. Loud, sharp, jarring. We jumped apart. She fumbled for it, looked at the screen. "Mark." Again. She declined the call. Let the phone drop face down on the couch. We both stood there, the moment broken, but still alive somewhere between us. She stepped back, fixed her robe, swallowed, then said, "If you come by tomorrow." I looked up. "Don't park out front." I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about her voice in that room, the way it dropped when she said my name, the way her hand hovered at my chest and then disappeared when the phone rang. She told me not to park out front. So I didn't. The next evening, I circled the block 3 times before finally pulling into a spot 2 streets over. Walked the rest of the way in the rain with my hood up and my heart pounding. The house was dark from the front, no porch light, no movement behind the curtains. But the side gate was open. She'd left it that way. I slipped around the side, shoes soaking, and tapped twice on the sliding glass door. She opened it before I could knock again. No robe tonight, just a dark sweater and jeans. Barefoot. No makeup. Hair tied back. Somehow that made it worse. "You're soaked," she whispered, tugging me in. "Come on." She led me to the back room again, the candle already lit, just like last time. The ring was back, but not on her finger. It was on the windowsill like a deliberate piece of set dressing. A reminder. "You didn't have to come." she said, handing me a towel. I know. You still did. I sat on the love seat. The silence stretched. Then headlights. We both froze. This time it wasn't a neighbor. A car turned into the driveway. She pulled the curtain back an inch, her face drained of color. Mark, she said. Everything inside me locked up. But he wasn't. He wasn't supposed to. She reached for my arm. Stay here. Don't make a sound. And she was gone. I heard the front door open. Their voices carried from the hallway. His was louder, tired. Hers lighter than it should have been. I couldn't make out words, just tones. Tension under politeness. I waited. Seconds stretched into minutes. Then footsteps. Closer. I stood up, scanning for an exit. The room had no doors. Just the window and a hallway that led to the side entrance. I crept toward the hallway, heart hammering, and froze. Mark's voice. Closer. I left my charger in the den, he said. No, not this room. Not now. I heard her hesitate. Just use mine tonight, she said. It's already plugged in upstairs. Pause. Silence. Then his voice again, softer. You okay? She didn't answer right away. Then quiet. Yeah, just tired. Footsteps moved away. I exhaled only when I heard the bedroom door shut upstairs. She returned a minute later, pale. You have to go. I nodded. Didn't move. She saw it. What? I don't know, I said. I didn't finish. She stepped closer. Something shifted in her eyes. And then she reached past me, picked up the ring from the windowsill. But instead of putting it on, she dropped it into my hand. Cold. Heavy. Final. You think I forgot it yesterday? She asked. No. Then why do you think I left it there? I looked at it. Her. She was shaking slightly, not from fear, but something else. I closed my fingers around the ring. I'll call you, I said. She shook her head. No, don't. Just wait. And then she pulled something from the drawer beside the love seat, a folded note. Slipped it into my jacket pocket. For tomorrow, she whispered. Where? You'll see. I didn't open the note until the next morning. I kept it in my jacket pocket all night, untouched. When I finally unfolded it, the handwriting was soft, curved, a little rushed, like it had been written quickly but meant long before. If you still want to, back entrance, 7 o'clock. I'll leave it unlocked. No lights. I read it 3 times, then folded it again. That afternoon I skipped work, told my friend I was sick, ignored 2 calls from my dad. By 5 p.m., I turned off my phone completely and shoved it in the glove compartment. I couldn't risk anyone hearing it vibrate at the wrong time. I drove with the windows down, the cold air sharp against my skin. My heart thudded heavier with every block. The same house, same road, but everything felt more dangerous now. When I parked, I waited 10 minutes in the car before walking to the side entrance. The door opened before I knocked. She pulled me inside and locked it. We didn't speak at first. She walked me to the den again, same love seat, same flickering candle. But she didn't sit. She paced slowly, barefoot, arms crossed over a long sweater. Her hair was tied up in a messy knot. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly. You left the note. I know. She finally sat down, elbows on knees, rubbing her hands together like she was trying to wake them up. Then a sentence that shifted something in the air. He asked me this morning if I was hiding something. I sat back. What did you say? I said no, she said. I smiled and told him he was being paranoid. Silence. She looked at me finally. Not the way she had before. This was different, stripped, unguarded. I tried to leave once, she said. A few years ago. Had the bags packed. even got as far as my sister's place. But then, I came back. Why? My mother called me dramatic, said women like us are lucky to be chosen. She laughed once bitter and dry. Mark didn't hit me. He didn't scream. He just stopped talking like I mattered. And I told myself that was enough. That quiet was easier than lonely. She looked down at her fingers. No ring now. Just skin, bare and pale around where the band used to be. I didn't speak. Couldn't. I don't know what this is, she continued, or what I'm doing. But for the first time in a long time, I don't feel invisible. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. She mirrored me without realizing. I saw you last night, she whispered, standing in that hallway holding my ring. You looked like you didn't know whether to run or stay. I didn't, I admitted. I still don't. And then footsteps. Not hers. Not mine. Outside. Gravel shifting under weight. We froze. She stood up, walked to the curtain slowly, careful not to move it. Then whispered, "Someone's outside." I joined her silently, just enough to peek through the edge. A man, middle-aged, wearing a hoodie, on the sidewalk, staring at the house. Not walking, not leaving. Then his phone lit up. He held it up. Picture of the house. She gasped. "Neighbor?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, that's Rick. Mark's coworker." My stomach dropped. "What do we do?" She backed away from the window. "He must have followed you." "Me? He's seen your car before. You used to come by when we hosted dinners. He's not stupid." I pulled on my jacket. "I'll go out the back." "No," she said. "He'll see you leave." "That's worse." We stood in silence. The sound of the wind in the trees outside. Her eyes darted to the hallway, then back to me. Finally, she took a step forward. "Luke." "Yeah. If I told you to never come back, would you mean it?" Pause. "No." Then I said it. "Then I'm coming back." She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just nodded once and slipped something small into my hand. A single brass key. "Tomorrow," she said. "Same time." She nodded again. "But after that," she added, "there's no turning back." She left the back door unlocked again. Same time. Same candle. No words this time, just a nod when I stepped in. Her hair was down. Her feet bare. She wore a dark sweater that hung past her waist and sleeves that covered her hands. I took off my jacket, hung it on the same hook by the door. Neither of us looked at the windows. No one said anything for a while. And then she walked over, reached for my hand, and guided me to the couch. No hesitation. No question. Her mouth brushed my jaw before I could breathe. My hand found her back, warm and tense. Her skin smelled like soap and something sweet, maybe wine again, maybe memory. When she leaned back, her voice was barely audible. "If you leave now, I'll never ask you why." I shook my head once. "I'm not leaving." The room was smaller than ever. Or maybe everything else just faded. The past, the threat, the fear. Only her. Only now. And then the candle blew out, not from wind, but from her hand. Darkness. Silence. And everything after that was breath and touch. I woke up hours later to her head on my shoulder. Her ring still rested on the table where she'd left it the first night. We didn't talk about the morning. Didn't talk about Rick. Or Mark. Or how long we could keep this going before the weight of it crushed us both. We just stayed there. Still. Breathing. And then I left, quietly before sunrise. 1 week later, the front of her house was brighter than I'd ever seen it. Porch light glowing. Curtains open. A small flower pot on the windowsill. It looked like a photo in a catalog, safe, calm, staged. I didn't go to the door. Instead, I waited across the street in my car, watching. At exactly 7:03 p.m., her silhouette appeared behind the curtains. She didn't look out the window. She just reached up slowly and drew the blinds closed. One by one, like a ritual. I waited another minute, then reached into my pocket and pulled out the brass key. Still warm from my hand. Still hers. I didn't knock. I didn't ring the bell. I just walked to the back gate, pushed it open, and stepped inside. Her wedding ring sat in the middle of the hallway floor right where I'd find it.